Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking a closer look, a special exploration, really, into some ancient texts.
That's right. Specifically, we're diving into the book of First Kings, chapter 5.
Yeah, First Kings 5. And we're using the MCS 1 Kings 5 study material as our guide here.
It's a really pivotal chapter. It sets the scene right after King Solomon takes the throne from his father, King David.
Exactly. And, a big theme that jumps out and what we really want to dig into is this idea of building on legacies.
Building on what came before. It's not just about Solomon building a temple.
Right.
It's about how he connects with his father's legacy, the relationships David built, and, well, how that applies even to us today.
Absolutely. How we inherit things, good or bad, and what we choose to build from that.
Yeah.
So let's get started.
Okay, so verse 1 kicks things off with what the study material calls a legacy of respect.
Yeah, this is Hiram, the king of Tyre, or Zor,
Right, and as soon as he hears Solomon's king, he sends his people, his servants.
to congratulate him, just like that.
Yeah, and the text makes it clear this isn't just standard political courtesy,
No, it says Hiram had always loved David. There is a real history there.
a genuine connection. It really says something about David, doesn't it? That he fostered these strong international bonds.
It does. And this relationship wasn't just talk either.
No, exactly. Hiram had actually supplied wood, timber for David's palace way back.
So there's a track record, a history of working together, of mutual respect.
And that's a key point, isn't it? David built that relationship, maybe without knowing exactly how it would pay off later.
Uh-huh.
But that goodwill, that history, created this opportunity for Solomon. It's like David built a bridge.
That Solomon could walk right across. Yeah, I see that.
Precisely.
Okay, so Solomon inherits this foundation of goodwill. Then verses 2 to 5, we get Solomon reaching out to Hiram.
Yes. Solomon sends his message, laying out his big plan,
The temple.
the temple. He explains, my father David, he really wanted to build this house for the Lord. It was his dream.
But he couldn't.
He couldn't. Solomon points out David was basically surrounded by wars, constant conflict, just wasn't the right time.
It highlights that idea of timing, of recognizing the right season for something.
Absolutely. David's time was for maybe securing the kingdom. Solomon's era, it was more peaceful.
Allowing him to take on this massive building project.
Exactly, to fulfill that vision his father had. And Solomon seems to understand this isn't just his project.
Right, it's bigger. It's part of God's plan, building on David's spiritual legacy.
Yeah, he sees himself as stepping into that role. And that resonates, whether you come from a long line of faith or you're just starting out. There's this sense that you can contribute to something lasting, something beyond yourself.
So the vision is set. Now, verse 6, Solomon makes the specific ask. He needs wood.
Cedar wood from Lebanon, Olawana, and not just any wood.
Now, these cedars were famous. Why were they so special?
Well, they were incredibly tall, wide, strong, but also really fragrant. And crucially, they were very resistant to rot, to decay, even to bugs. Perfect for a building meant to last, like the temple.
So top quality material, valuable stuff.
Extremely valuable. And Solomon knows it. He tells Hiram basically, name your price.
Read whatever you say. He's not trying to lowball him.
No. He also acknowledges Hiram's people. The Sidonians, the Sidonim, are the experts at cutting down these trees.
So he respects the resource and the skill needed to get it. That's pretty smart.
It is. It shows he understands what's needed.
Yeah.
He knows he can't do it alone. He needs Hiram's resources. He needs the Sidonian skills.
It's about knowing what you don't have and being willing to, pay fairly for it. Collaboration.
That's a huge part of it. You need partnerships for big projects.
So how does Hiram take this big request? Verses 7 to 9, it sounds like he was pretty happy.
Oh, yeah. The text says he rejoiced greatly. He was thrilled to get Solomon's message.
And he actually blesses God, doesn't he? For giving David such a wise son.
He does.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating because Hiram might not have worshipped the same God, right?
Right.
But he recognized Solomon's wisdom, the benefit of having a stable, wise leader in Israel. It shows that respect for good leadership can, cross religious lines.
That's a really interesting point. Speaks volumes about Solomon's early reputation.
Definitely. And Hiram immediately agrees, yep, I'll supply the cedar and also cypress.
And he even figures out the logistics.
Yeah, he lays out the plan. We'll cut the logs, float them down the coast.
Like rafts.
Exactly. As rafts along the Mediterranean, down to Joppa, which was a port near Jerusalem.
Practical, efficient.
Very. And then for payment, Hiram says, just provide food for my household.
So a barter system, basically. Timber for food.
A clear, Mutually beneficial deal. A real partnership.
Okay, so the deal is struck. And verses 10 to 12 show this wasn't just a one-off.
Right. It became an ongoing arrangement. Hiram kept supplying the timber.
All that Solomon needed.
And Solomon paid up every year. A lot of food.
Yeah, the numbers are pretty staggering. 100,000 bushels of wheat and 1,000 gallons of olive oil.
Yeah. It was a significant amount. But it sustained the alliance, kept the timber flowing for the temple construction.
And the text explicitly links this successful partnership back to God's promise.
It does. It reminds us, God gave Solomon wisdom just as he promised.
And that wisdom was key to building and keeping this peace, this productive alliance with Tyre.
Yeah, it really underscores how wise leadership fosters cooperation, stability, success in the long run.
Okay, so the materials are secured through this great partnership, but building a temple takes more than just wood and stone.
Oh, absolutely. And verses 13 to 17, well, they shift focus to the immense human effort involved.
This is where we get into the labor force.
Yes. Solomon conscripted, it says, 30,000 men from all over Israel.
Forced labor, essentially.
It seems so. And they worked in shifts up in Lebanon, cutting trees, 10,000 men each month rotating.
A massive operation, and Adoniram was the guy in charge of this levy.
Correct. That was just the workforce in Lebanon.
Right. There were even more people involved back in Israel, weren't there?
Huge numbers. 70,000 men as load carriers, basically moving materials.
70,000.
And another 80,000 men cutting stone in the quarries in the hill country.
Wow. Just think about those numbers. 30,000 plus 70,000 plus 80,000, not even counting overseers or other skilled workers.
It's enormous.
Yeah.
Especially when you remember this is all being done without, cranes or power tools or anything modern.
Just sheer human effort. It really drives home the scale, the national commitment this project represented.
Absolutely. And it wasn't just grunt work either. Verse 17 mentions they were quarrying large, costly stones, high-quality stuff for the foundation.
So skilled labor was crucial too. Stone cutters, masons.
Definitely. You need expertise to lay a foundation that's going to support such a magnificent structure.
And then finally, verse 18 brings it back to that theme of collaboration.
Yeah, it explicitly states that Solomon's builders worked side by side with Hiram's builders.
So experts from Tyre were involved in the actual construction too.
Seems so. And also mentions men from Gebal.
Jibal,
Yeah.
that's Byblos, right?
Right.
Known for its seafaring.
Exactly. So they likely played a key role, maybe particularly with the timber transport, getting those logs prepared and rafted down the coast.
It really was an international effort, drawing on different strengths. Tyre's timber and expertise, Jabal's seafaring skills, Israel's manpower and stone.
A truly collaborative venture to build something monumental.
So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive into 1 Kings 5, what are the main takeaways for you? What really stands out?
Well, a few things. Definitely the power of legacy. How David's respect built a bridge for Solomon. That's huge.
Yeah, the impact of past relationships.
And also Solomon's vision. Having a clear goal, but also recognizing the right time to pursue it.
Timing and vision. Got it.
And then, critically, the need for collaboration. Solomon couldn't do it alone. He needed Hiram, he needed the Jebelites, he needed all that manpower.
Understanding limitations and leveraging partnerships.
Exactly. It took all of that working together to even begin building the temple.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
About the legacies we've inherited, maybe from family, mentors, our communities.
What foundations are already there?
And what are we building on top of them? What are the temples, maybe not literal buildings, but projects, goals, contributions that you are working towards?
Yeah, and who are the Hirams or the Jebelites in your life? Whose partnership, whose skills, whose resources do you need to bring those visions to life?
It's a powerful reminder. Even the biggest dreams, the grandest projects, they often rely on foundations others laid, and they almost always require working together, something to really mull over.